Hey everybody, this is Paul and Ian from McSoss, and we are bringing you another video episode. This time we're going to talk Fargo on FX. This is something that we've both been into since FX kicked it off. It's never come up on the podcast because it's not a comic-related property, but it's something that we've really liked. It's something that Matt hasn't seen and that Matt probably won't see just because there are much more important things on Matt's schedule.
I wonder if Matt's even seen the original movie Fargo.
Oh, it's a movie, so
Right.
I bet he has.
In his wheelhouse. It's a 90s movie, too. That seems to fit right into Matt's wheelhouse.
He not that this is the complaint about Matt video episode.
That one's next week.
He will balk at he'll balk when we say he's not a TV guy.
Maybe it's Matt's commitment. Maybe he's commitment phobic because TV takes a certain week in, week out, month in, month out type of commitment to these shows. I mean, even the ones that we talk about, the prestige TV shows that are only 9 to 12 episodes, that's 9 to 12 hours out of somebody's life. And you can't always give that
certain amount of dedication to really get into long-form storytelling.
Dedication or a lot of dead time sitting on your couch, which is what I have.
So this is Fargo's third season. I saw the movie a long time ago, and I didn't like it. I don't think I understood it. I thought the comedy was too smart for me, maybe.
It's really dry.
It wasn't funny to me. Like, I didn't like it. And I think just the cast of the first season of the FX show is what got me to watch it. Billy Bob Thornton, Bilbo Baggins, whose name escapes me, Martin Freeman.
Right.
Martin Freeman and Colin Hanks. I was like, oh, I like all these guys. I'll check it out. And I loved it. I thought it was great. I was surprised myself. I was like, holy shit, I love a Fargo product.
And I thought it was strange because when they announced that they were going to make this season of TV, I was like, Fargo, well, didn't they already tell this very self-contained story about this very sort of narrow set of guidelines that they had to run with the location and the type of stories that they could tell? I was like, well, are they just going to remake the original movie in a long form, or what are they going to do? So the first season really surprised me with the way that it could engage me from a property that I thought was not able to stretch out through multiple episodes and multiple seasons.
Yeah, it really kind of fucked me up too, because I didn't know that it wasn't just retelling the movie as a series.
Yeah,
because it does have a lot of the same tenets. We were talking about it. I think we were talking to Matt about it a couple weeks ago, and you were saying that you have kind of like the bumbling townie that gets into trouble. You have like the out of town shark that comes in and thinks they're going to run the show, and like there's certain characters that always appear, and that's been the case through all three seasons.
I think that's what we really learned with the season 3 is that there is a certain recipe for making Fargo stories. It reminds me of whenever they announced the second season of True Detective, and we didn't know what makes a true detective story a true detective story.
According to those two seasons, anything.
They don't know. That's what we found out. The showrunners had no idea what the essence of True Detective was, but Noah Hawley, the showrunner and writer of the Fargo TV series, really knows the essence of the, like we mentioned before, the 3 tenets of what kind of pushes a Fargo story forward and the things that you need to have to make it feel grounded in that universe.
Yeah, I really liked the first season. The first season really surprised me because I wasn't expecting to like it. Mm-hmm. And then I loved it, and I loved the second season even more. The second season is right up there with Dexter season 4, the Trinity season. Those are my 2 favorite seasons of television.
We need to do a top 5 power ranking of TV seasons.
Fargo season 2, Dexter season 4, Full House season 2.
Powerful!
I was trying to think about what else would fit in there, and there's something that I know there's something else because
How about
it was always Dexter and something else, and then I added Fargo to it.
How
but I
about
can't
the
remember
last
what it was.
the last season of Game of Thrones, the fan service version of Game of Thrones, where they broke away from some of the traditional stuff that was actually in the books and kind of wrote all new material, and broke away also from the subverting your expectations thing that the other seasons have done, where in this last season, some of the heroes win. Jon Snow comes back to life. Spoilers! You know, all the fans get a little bit of like the best of what they want to see from those characters. So I don't know. I mean, maybe the last season of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, maybe. Like, I don't think any of the Fargo season 2 and Dexter season 4. Those like moved me in a way that nothing else has. Like, I love Game of Thrones. It's great, and I'll sit down and watch it. But those seasons were truly captivating. Like, I could not wait to get to the next part of those seasons, and they just kept getting better and better from start to finish. They were fantastic, and Game of Thrones is great too. But none of the Game of Thrones seasons have made me like, holy shit. And I'm like action, adventure, fantasy guy, so it's also kind of odd that my two favorite seasons of television are pretty straightforward, detective tales.
Yeah, I mean, Fargo is sort of like a, updated crime noir kind of aesthetic, and I don't feel like that's in your ballpark. One of the things that I liked about season 2 was that it connected some of the characters from that first season. It traveled back in time to the late 70s, early 80s, I think it was, and really made it into sort of like a period piece with some really strong acting.
Keith Carradine in the first season is he winds up being Colin Hanks' father-in-law, and in the second season, Patrick Wilson plays the younger version of him. And in the first season, he mentions like the worst case he's ever seen, and in the second season, you see what that is, and it's so the characters in that it takes place in the 70s. It's like a prequel season, but everything's so fleshed out. Everything ties together so great. Everyone's so well-rounded, even like to characters like Bear.
Yeah.
Like, it's such cool shit. And then there's the weird stuff like the UFO.
Every single episode, I anticipated watching it, and after it was finished, I was like, well, holy shit, I didn't see any of that coming.
Yeah.
Topped off with the UFO that came out of nowhere. I mean, it was just really, really interesting character work, really well acted. You got to you feel like you already cared about those characters because this was essentially a prequel to the first season. The little girl in season 2 grows up to be one of the police officers that is working with Colin Hanks. Or
So that marries Colin Hanks.
Yeah, that's right. So you get to see sort of the things that impacted her and pushed her into the line of duty. And I don't know. I thought it was really a great season of TV. And I thought it was surprising that that FX let them take a whole year off to craft season 3 so far.
And so far I'm not as engaged with season 3 up until the last episode. And I think I watched 4. Have 5 been released? I may have missed one. I think 5 would have came out.
I think
yesterday.
5. I thought 5 came out. What was the last thing that you saw?
The last episode I saw was when Carrie Coon goes out to Los Angeles. She essentially finds a dead end, and then she comes back. She has that weird box that turns the switch off.
You're one episode behind then.
And the other Fargo police officer puts together that all the last names are the same.
Right. What you missed...
The last name that I can't remember.
Is it Sully or
Stussy?
Stussy. But it's sort of a coincidence, and that's sort of another thing. about Fargo that is sort of part of the DNA of the show is like goofy coincidences that roll into each other that end up having pretty dire circumstances. They further the story. You get some more of Varga, and you get to see him infiltrating the business and really get to see how intense and how serious.
Varga, played by David Thewlis, who played Professor Lupin in the Harry Potter movies, and he is captivating. He's got those weird dentures in, and they're terrible, and he's so
also
creepy and bizarre.
He's bulimic
Yeah.
because he has the dinner with one of Ewan McGregor's characters, the affluent brother. I forget his name, but he has dinner with them, and then he immediately goes and vomits. And it's just such a weird it's just a weird trait to have this really menacing bad guy have to be making himself puke.
Yeah,
Strange.
he does a great job being threatening because physically he's not imposing. He's, he looks like a thin, frail British guy, but, the way he speaks and the way, he delivers all those lines, he's terrifying. He's more terrifying than the two thugs that he has working for him.
Yeah.
And what really hooked me into this season in episode 4 was when Carrie Coon's character goes to Los Angeles and she finds out about her father-in-law, stepfather.
It's her stepfather that only was married to her mother for like a year or something, like a very short time. So she doesn't know a whole lot about him.
And he had written a handful of sci-fi books under a pseudonym that have, that are related to space and UFOs. And I think that somehow could tie back to the weird UFO stuff from season 2.
That's true. I didn't even see that.
I'm like,
nice.
Oh shit.
Yeah. I feel like through the first 4 episodes, we talked before about there being through lines that Fargo needs to follow. It felt a little stale this time. And maybe that's why I'm kind of not as enthusiastic about this version of it, because I've seen a lot of this stuff done before. And I guess I kind of wanted something maybe a little bit different or more connected. And this doesn't feel as connected as the first and second season. I thought we were going to get maybe more of that. It's set in 2010, which is a very nondescript period of time. It just feels too close, but not far away. And not, I don't know why they picked that.
And it's a 10-episode season. 5 have been released, so there's still 5 episodes for everything to make a big turn and really tie everything together and have that kind of a twist to it, which I hope it does. I want this season to be successful because I love Ewan McGregor, and he plays 2 twin brothers, and he does a great job. But I'm afraid he signed on to the bad season of Fargo.
Yeah. I want it to do well,
just like he signed on to the bad Star Wars movies. Stop making bad decisions, Ewan McGregor. Be quicker.
I want it to do well just because I want to see more Fargo. I want to see this world.
This is where Matt, if we were doing the podcast, would argue with me that, Ewan McGregor wasn't born when the prequels were made, or when the originals were made, so he couldn't make that decision. He couldn't born early. But we here on the video podcast, so we don't give a shit about details like that. Ewan McGregor,
just throw it out. It's just all pure emotion and hatred. So, so far I've been a little bit disappointed, but I am willing. Fargo, the TV series, has such a strong track record. I'm still excited to see where it's going to go in this last leg of the of this 3rd season. So, and I need something to watch. Summer TV. I feel like all of summer TV has been moved to early spring, so there are, in late July and August, there's nothing to watch. So
one of the things that this season has done that I like is something that is a similar thing that season 2 did. In season 2, they got Kieran Culkin to play a character who died immediately.
Yeah, it was in the first episode.
And in season 3, you get Scoot McNairy, and I'm like, oh, we're going to see this guy a while. He's going to be a big part of the plot. Done.
Did they do that in the first season too? Maybe not. I can't remember anyone.
Yeah, I don't know who they would have killed in the first one. So they're doing surprising things. Ewan McGregor's been great.
Mm-hmm.
His sidekick.
Yeah.
Affluent Ewan McGregor's sidekick.
Yeah.
Affluent Stussy.
Guy with the flat top cut and the mustache.
What a killer mustache on that guy.
It is solid.
He's been great. Like, I think all the acting's been great. Mary Elizabeth Winstead is so insanely pretty. Like, every time she's on screen, I'm like, I can't watch this.
She's really good, and after the events of episode 5, it looks like there's gonna be some interesting stuff that she's gonna be able to, that she'll have need to handle.
So, you're worried about not having things to watch later in the summer?
Yeah, I am. I feel like they haven't staggered, or in recent years, TV has not staggered its release schedule properly, where I feel like, say, 5 years ago, they would be releasing things in mid-June that would bridge over into the fall schedule.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they do that anymore. They're releasing more things in March and April than they ever have.
I like these short seasons. I've been watching the Prison Break renewal, and it's 9 episodes.
Yeah.
And they've been tight, quick episodes. I watched the original run of that show, and I was like, the first season is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not quite Dexter season 4 amazing, but the first season of Prison Break is absolutely excellent television. It's great writing, great acting. But then after that, they were like, oh, we've got, like, at the end of the season, they break out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the point. And then the second season's like, well, now they're going to get away from the cops.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third season, they're like, well, they were caught, but they're doing like a Suicide Squad thing.
Yeah.
Where you're going to go back to jail, but you got to break people out of other things. And it got too convoluted, and it got too goofy. But this like renewal season, or Prison Break 2.0, whatever the fuck they're calling it, they're keeping it real tight. There was a prison break, but there was also a break out of Saudi Arabia or Iran.
Saudi break,
and it's been cool. It's been really good. It's been really tight. It's only 9 episodes, so they have to keep things moving. I'm into the short seasons.
I feel like in this age of mass amounts of media to watch, you have to, in order for your property to be something that's on the radar, for people to easily catch themselves up, it has to be available and it has to be short. And those are the things that are key to keeping everybody invested and able to join into the conversation. That's the most important part. I don't think ratings is as important as it used to be. It's the conversation. That's what brings shows back from the dead, and it does. They do it all the time. Prison Break is a key example of something that has come back. They brought 24 back. I don't know if it was a conversational thing, but I mean, people are always talking about different TV shows, and the fans have the ability to push the studios into bringing something back. I'm trying to think of another example. Fringe is probably my favorite example of a show that remained alive just because of the type of fan support and how it was handled by just fans responding and sending licorice into the studio and just keeping keeping its name in the zeitgeist for so long back in the early 2000s.
Yeah, Fringe was just incredible. And the maybe you don't need the big long extended seasons, because it's been proven through HBO and Netflix that these short seasons work.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to see traditional shows that have been on for a while go to a shorter run.
Pare it back, yeah.
Like Supernatural, you're in season 12. You don't need 23 episodes.
Yeah.
I'd like to see just stuff like Supernatural get scaled back. Lucifer, I love Lucifer. It doesn't need 20 plus episodes. What's really nice about DC's Legends of Tomorrow on the CW, it's half the season.
Yeah.
It splits a season with iZombie, and it really benefits both of those shows because there isn't that huge dedication to it. Like, you don't need to put that much time into it. It's not 23 episodes. And when you get to 23 episodes of a season, like, I love television, but it's too much. Now that I've learned, I've been taught that, 8, 10, 12 episodes, that's like your sweet spot. Well, like, wind it back. Tighten all that shit up. Make it happen. It's less daunting.
I fell behind on iZombie, and in one night, me and my wife were able to catch ourselves up. We're all up to date. Yeah.
iZombie's great.
Yeah, iZombie is a really quality show. Super funny. I love it. I wish they would keep Liv Moore's makeup more consistent. Just make her white all the time. That's what's fun about that. It's a weird, quirky show that stars a zombie. Make her look like she doesn't have to be gross, but she has to be white and sexy like that.
What I always forget about iZombie, and I don't know why, because I'm like 6 episodes behind in this season, but I watched the whole first season, the first couple of this, or the first 2 seasons, I guess. The first couple of this one. I always forget that they take on the traits of the brains that they eat.
That's the funnest part.
It is. There's so much else going on in the show between the death of the week and the overarching plots and the character relationships that the brain quirk of the week always it happens, and I'm like, oh yeah, I love this too. If you're not watching iZombie, watch iZombie.
The way that as we were catching ourselves up on it, we're watching it, and you get the preview for the next episode, and they always cover, well, this is the brain quirk of the week. This week she's going to be an alcoholic party girl. This week she's going to be a dominatrix, and that sucks us in every time. We're like, oh, we absolutely need to watch this. So, iZombie, kudos to Rob Thomas and crew for really taking a comic property that was, it was a nice comic property, but the TV show is wholly something different onto itself and much more enjoyable, I think, than I ever imagined it was going to be.
Yeah, and I'm a big Matchbox 20 guy, big Rob Thomas guy. Different from the creator of the showrunner of iZombie, also called Rob Thomas. And I love that they met through their fame in the same names.
Mistaken identity.
Right, so the showrunner of iZombie had the singer on for at the end of season 2. And it was really great seeing those 2 worlds of mine come together. So iZombie, great stuff. Do you watch You're the Worst also on FX?
I do.
FXX.
Yeah.
I feel like they could have named FXX better.
They probably could have. I do. I haven't. It's not back on, is it? Okay. Yeah. I'm all caught up with last season, so I had a DVR meltdown, and we had to replace a DVR last year, so a bunch of shows that we normally recorded may or may not be on our DVR, to record again. So sometimes, as the case with iZombie, I got surprised that it was back on the air, and we had to hurry up and reschedule and watch certain episodes on the app.
Yeah, I lost Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. mid-season because of a DVR mishap.
Those are some of the most traumatic moments of my life. Whenever my DVR has melted down twice, and the moment when I had to inform my wife that we lost seasons of stuff twice was traumatic. It was horrible.
First world, everybody. You're the Worst is great. It's probably, I guess it would be a sitcom.
Yeah.
Dramedy.
It's a dramedy.
It has that Fresh Prince of Bel-Air quality that, some episodes are really funny, but other episodes are just heartbreaking.
It deals with serious matters in a lighthearted way.
It does, but it has that ability to just drive home the seriousness, the quality of the cast, and the unexpected connectedness that you get for seemingly fringe characters and what they're going through. It's it's a great fucking show. I love it to death. I expect it to be canceled any second.
The episode that really drove home how serious they could play certain angles of the show. Last season, they took they followed around one of the characters, Edgar, who is sort of like he's sort of like a sidekick character, comic relief, sort of silly, goofy character, but he suffers from PTSD. He was a veteran in the Iraq War, and the episode that preceded his starring episode sort of had him popping in and out and saying some funny stuff here and there. But then the episode that starred him really showed the mental torment that he went through and took you through the same beats of the last episode, but from his point of view where he was going through a lot of stuff that, you couldn't see. And it really highlighted how terrible his friends and roommate are.
Yeah, and it's called You're the Worst because, Gretchen and Jimmy, the main characters, are supposed to be the worst, but it really reminds us that we're all the worst. Like, we're all terrible because this isn't on ABC or CBS, it's on FX.
Mm-hmm.
And they can really highlight, they can really push things
mm-hmm.
on FXX. And if you don't like these characters, then, well, tough, that's who these characters are.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really highlighted in season 2 when Gretchen's really down and out with depression.
Mm-hmm.
And like her story is just so hard to watch and so sad through the whole thing. And Jimmy at that point is like, "Oh, you're fine, get up.
Mm-hmm.
Get up, quit being a slackless layabout, get up, do something." And like just the callousness of Jimmy to the situation, not necessarily because he is insensitive, but it's more so he just didn't get it.
Yeah.
He's wrapped up in himself. He just didn't understand. And they're able to push more real life scenarios in that vein, and it works. You're the Worst works so great. Do you watch The Strain?
I don't watch The Strain, no. I think I watched a little bit of the first season. I love Corey Stoll, but I just fell behind and never caught up to it. So,
Strain's good. Season 1 of The Strain had some weird costume problems, had some weird vampire prosthetics. They were just big, weird, goofy masks.
Had some weird Corey Stoll full mane of hair that fooled even you.
What's funny about Corey Stoll and his giant lion's mane is that I hadn't seen him in anything before The Strain, so I was like, that guy's hair is magnificent.
And I was familiar with him from House of Cards, where he has his normal hair, which is none.
And then I saw him, and he was either in Girls or Ant-Man
mm-hmm.
first.
I think it was Ant-Man.
And I was like, oh, he shaved his hair for this role.
How brave!
What dedication and commitment to the craft.
And I was like, no, dude, that dude's bald.
Yeah, I think it was you. You were like, you're a dummy. He's bald all the time. But Corey Stoll's great. The guy that plays Argus Filch, David something. He plays Argus Filch in the Harry Potter movies. He's in Game of Thrones as the creepy, tons of young, ugly wives guy that controls the bridge.
Walter Frey.
He plays Abraham Strakian, who's essentially who's the guy that hunts vampires?
Van Helsing?
Van Helsing. He's essentially the Van Helsing character of The Strain. Like, he's great. The German Nazi vampire, Richard Sammel is the actor's name. So fucking creepy and spot on every episode. And it, the first episode had some weird, learning curves.
Mm-hmm.
But then, once they get into it, The Strain's been really good.
How many seasons is it? Is this the third or fourth that's coming up?
I think the fourth is going to be starting.
I'll have to try to find a way to catch up on it and see if I can get current.
FX has been doing some really good things. I've been impressed with FX and I've been impressed with Starz.
Yeah.
What's the other show on Starz now?
American Gods is the recent
Have
show.
you watched American Gods?
I've watched the first 2 episodes. Really high quality. Really crazy, over the top violence.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, like
I haven't seen it.
lots of wacko bananas blood. They set the groundwork for what to expect from the very first moment. They're doing a flashback to the Vikings coming to America, and they're telling the story about how they land on the shore, and they start to walk, and they're ready to pillage and rape women and do all this stuff. And one of the Vikings steps off the beach onto actual dry land and gets hit with 100 arrows in a very like over the top comedic kind of way. But that dude's dead as shit. The Vikings are trying to summon the god of wind to help carry their boats home. There's no wind. So they start doing stuff like gouging their eyes out so that maybe he'll look at them. They start having like blood rituals and sacrificing people. They have like a war with each other, and in this war on the beach, there are limbs flying all over the place, and there's a part, it's, letterbox, so, you have black bars and there are limbs flying off out of the letterbox, which is kind of funny. So it's like that over-the-top graphic violence, but with like
a Mark Millar book.
Yeah, or a Garth Ennis book. But right. It's
Neil better.
Yeah, it's Neil Gaiman, who is a famous comic book writer of Sandman and many other things. But it does feel, and this was a novel, but this has a very comic book feel to it, and it's something that I would highly recommend. I've only watched 2 episodes. I think there are 4 out at this point, but yeah, you have stars. Check it out. I think you'll like it.
Yeah, I've really liked Blunt Talk, which I didn't think I was gonna like because I thought it was gonna be like the Fargo movie. I thought the humor was gonna be too smart for me. It's the Patrick Stewart show. Blunt Talk is fantastic. Ash vs. Evil Dead has been amazing. I love it so much more than the movies.
I'm gonna have to check that out. That was the first thing that.
There's a lot of great fucking stuff on TV. I don't know why you guys bother with going to the movies. I don't know why. That's gonna wrap up tonight's video episode. Tonight's a little TV talk. Man, it feels so good getting all this TV talk out of my system. Thanks for listening to Ian and I talk about television. Ian and I talk about television. You can check us out on Twitter at Gint_McSoss and at TheSauce, SOSS, and at McSoss.com. We're also on Instagram and in iTunes. iTunes for the podcast.
iTunes, Stitcher, Podomatic, any way that you normally get your podcasts, we're available that way.
I don't do this very often, clearly. Thanks, everybody.